2016 Suzuki Room, Z250 Review. You would think that a company willing to go to the lengths that Suzuki did to improve its Room, Z250 would at least make some effort to alter its looks and make it visually obvious that the 2016 version is a much different motorcycle than the 2015. After all, Suzuki made more than 80 changes to the new Room ZS engine alone. But if beauty is only skin deep, and it's substance that really counts, then the 2016 Room, Z250 is worthy of a careful look. Performance-wise, it leaves the 2015 model floundering in its roost, and, with a new, quieter exhaust system that meets the AMA's 94 dB sound requirements, it may be the ultimate sleeper in the 250 cubic centimeters class this year. That Suzuki didn't go for a radical makeover of the Room ZS plastic is largely inconsequential when you consider the goods that the 2016 edition brings to the party. They include a revised engine that is retuned to provide stronger low-end and mid-range power, a more sophisticated fuel injection and engine management system that incorporates a highly sophisticated launch control feature, a new chassis, an exclusive KYB suspension that features yet another air fork design, and all of it for just $7,699. Suzuki's 2016 Room, Z250 may look nearly identical to the 2015, but with over 80 changes to the engine, a new launch control, a new chassis and all new KYB suspension, it is a far cry from the old model. If there were one place where the Room, Z250 really could benefit from change, it was in the motor department. It isn't that the previous model was slow, but its 249 cubic centimeters, liquid-cooled, DOHC, 4-valve, semi-dry sump mill pumped out such linear power that it could easily be derided as less than exciting. Suzuki engineers apparently went to great pains to ensure that the 2016 engine wouldn't suffer the same roasting. So, while the RMZ250 retains the same 77.0mm bore and 53.6mm stroke as the 2015 model, it features more than 80 internal parts updates including a new piston that has been shot-peened for better durability in addition to a new L-shaped top ring for better sealing. The wrist pin has also received a diamond-like coating to reduce internal friction inside the engine, freeing up lost power. To give the engine a little more snap, Room, Z250's compression ratio went from 13.5:1 to 13.75:1, although not in the usual manner via a reshaping of the piston or the combustion chamber. Instead, new, flat-faced 31mm titanium intake valves replace the dish-shaped valves used previously, and this change is what raises the compression ratio. The flat-faced valves do weigh a little more, so lighter tappets are used to compensate. In an effort to widen the Room, Z250's power band, new camshafts that feature higher lift and greater duration are also employed, with the exhaust cam also receiving a lighter, simpler decompression mechanism that results in a negligible rotating mass reduction inside the engine, but hey, every little bit helps. Suzuki engineers labored to give the Room, Z250's liquid-cooled, fuel-injected DOHC engine a little more pep for 2016. It shares the same bore and stroke as the previous version, but a new piston, crank, intake valves and cams are among the host of updates it has received. In addition to mass reduction inside the motor, Suzuki also focused on drag reduction, starting with the biggest hunk of metal in its bowels, the crankshaft. The 2016 crank is lighter thanks to a 0.5mm reduction in diameter, which reduces the amount of flywheel that spins through the engine oil in the Room ZS semi-dry sump cases. This hot rodder-style windage trick reduces mechanical losses since there is less crank going through the oil, there is less drag from the oil on the crank. The result is less mechanical loss at the flywheels, which equals more horsepower making its way to the rear wheel. Of course, Suzuki then had to go and give some of that power back by incorporating a more massive ignition rotor that has 9% more inertia than the previous rotor to maintain the engine's internal balance. The new rotor shifts the engine's power delivery slightly lower in the RPM range. However, the Room ZS cases feature new internal machining that increases the clearance between the bottom of the flywheel and the floor of the crankcase, reducing drag while also increasing engine oil capacity from 1.05 to 1.16 quarts, which is a-okay because that extra oil is now managed better than before. Speaking of oil, the 2016 RMZ also gets a new oil relief valve for better oil control and a redesigned clutch cover with a new window to permit quick inspection of the oil level. Other attention to drag reduction was spent on the Room ZS Chem chain tension system. The blade-like tensioners receive a slick Teflon coating to further reduce drag inside the engine. While making the change, Suzuki also opted to make the system more adjustable by increasing the number of stepped graduations available to dial in the proper chem chain slack. Externally, the Room Z250 also receives a new header pipe that has had its length increased 40 mm to improve its mid-range power while also meeting the aforementioned AMA sound level requirements. The Z250 was already a more consistent starter thanks to updates that were made over the past couple model years, but for 2016 Suzuki wanted the Room Z250 to be easier to start as well as more consistent. To that end, there's a revised kickstarter gear arrangement inside the engine. The primary kick ratio has been altered to increase leverage at the kickstart lever for easier starting. It seems to work, as firing up the Room Z250 isn't all that difficult. But, where we feel Suzuki got particularly tricky was in its engine management package. The 2016 Z250 receives a new feature, the Suzuki Whole Shot Assist Control, SHAC, a selectable launch mode system designed to help riders get better starts in racing conditions. Like others that have come before it, the SHAC is activated by a simple button on the handlebar, but the SHAC offers the rider a choice of 3 modes to match skill level and/or riding conditions. The first is the base mode, which simply means the unit is not activated. A mode is for hard surfaces or slick conditions at the starting gate, such as with a concrete starting pad. To activate this mode, the rider holds down the SHAC button for more than 0.7 seconds. B mode is ideal for when traction is better and/or a more aggressive launch is needed, hold down the SHAC button for more than 1.8 seconds. That extra button to the right of the kill switch manages Suzuki's sophisticated SHAC launch control, which gives the rider a choice of 2 different intervention modes to aid in getting the whole shot. What makes the SHAC interesting, at least on paper, is that it is a 3-mode system, with the 2 active modes featuring 3 separate timing maps within each mode when in use, unlike other systems where only one amount of timing retard is used for the entire launch sequence. The Room Z250's SHAC offers 3 stages in A mode or B mode: 1. A specific amount of retard upon initial launch, 2. A specific amount of retard as the bike travels over the starting gate, and 3. A specific amount of retard past the starting gate as the bike begins to accelerate. However, Suzuki officials are very tight-lipped about the amount and the duration of ignition retard in each of the 3 stages. What we do know is that the system deactivates and full power is restored if the system's gear position sensor recognizes that the transmission has been shifted into 4th gear, if the throttle position sensor recognizes that the throttle is closed, or if the ECM's internal timer reaches 6 seconds after the initial launch. Suzuki also says that the SHAC function is not affected by swapping to one of the alternative power mode couplers available to lean or richen the engine by 4%, and the entire system also provides a way for Suzuki mechanics to diagnose internal engine problems via a series of codes that are emitted from the LED when the proper diagnostic equipment is hooked to the motorcycle. More changes can be found in the Room Z250's 44mm Keihin throttle body, which has undergone a revision to reduce the engine braking effect during deceleration and when entering corners. To achieve this, Suzuki changed the angle of the throttle valve plate in the throttle body bore by a scant 0.5 degrees. The RMZ doesn't bowl you over with explosive power. Its power persona is more smooth and linear. There's still plenty of low-end and mid-range power to shred berms with, but the Suzuki prefers to be revved hard. Lo and behold, our 2016 Suzuki Room Z250 Intro Day just so happened to take place at the same track as our 2016 Honda CRF250R Intro did, the ultra-fast, big jump-filled Pala Raceway in Pala, California, just north of San Diego. Thus, Dynamo test rider Ryan Abatoy was good and ready to dive headlong into rendering an impression of the RMZ without having to rethink the track. Right off the bat, we came to the realization that for all of its changes, there are a lot of words that could be used to describe the Room Z250's power delivery, but robust isn't one of them. The RMZ is still one smooth customer, with excellent throttle response and a rev-happy personality. It produces decent bottom-end torque that transitions seamlessly into a slightly more authoritative mid-range, but that lunge tapers off as the engine reaches stratospheric RPM. Similar to its predecessor, the 2016 Room ZS engine isn't slow, and we love that it revs so quickly, runs smoothly and is so linear, but it simply doesn't feel like it is the fastest or most powerful engine in the class this year. However, with its revised exhaust system, it may be the quietest, and we even wondered whether or not the lack of a sharp exhaust bark was affecting our judgment. It wasn't. We attempted to boost the feel of the engine by opting for the leaner power coupler, which we snapped into place in less than a minute, and we found more happiness as we were able to coax a little more mid-range out of the RMZ with the swap. Although not as cool as the onboard power select mode adopted by at least one of its competitors, the Suzuki's power couplers still offer a convenient way to alter the engine's power character, so long as you aren't an idiot and forget to throw them in your toolbox. And don't ask us how we know that. The secret to a fast lap time with the Room Z250 is to keep the throttle pinned. It works best when the rider concentrates on conserving momentum. On the plus side, the RMZ is less likely to sap a rider's energy over the course of a long moto. The key to quick lap times on the Room Z250 lies in ringing its throttle to keep that rev-happy motor singing, using berms wherever possible to maintain momentum. Coming out of tight or slow corners, care must be taken to keep the Room ZS slick shifting 5-speed transmission in a lower gear and keep the revs high, which leaves less room for a lazy rider to rely on a snap of the clutch to pop the RMZ over the next jump on the horizon. The closer it is, the more aggressive you need to be. That said, we do appreciate the throttle body plate change that Suzuki made. The 2016 model's reduced engine braking allows the rider to roll a little deeper into a corner with less concentration, which helps to maintain momentum and makes it easier to string track sections together. As for our need for more thrust, Abatoy recommended going up one tooth on the Room ZS rear sprocket, from 49T to 50T, to take better advantage of the engine's available power. We intend to try that soon, and go with an aftermarket pipe, too. We did spend time experimenting with the SHAC, and we find it to be a very usable addition to the Room ZS arsenal. We can say with 100% certainty that unless your racetrack's starting gate is covered in ice, oil or rain-induced slime, you probably won't need A mode, which seriously bogs the engine during first or second gear starts when there is even a hint of traction at the rear wheel. B mode, however. Now we're talking. The SHAC's higher traction mode delivered easy and consistent second gear starts every time for our vet and novice testers, although experts can still dexterously tickle the clutch lever to get better starts with the system deactivated. It all depends on the surface, but we think Suzuki did a great job with its version of launch control. The Room Z250's aluminum perimeter chassis leaves virtually no clue that it has been revised, as its 58.1-inch wheelbase and 29-degree rake and 5.1-inch trail numbers are identical to last year's, yet the chassis upgrades for 2016 are substantial. For starters, its weight has been reduced by 2.5%, but its steering head pipe has been enlarged to mimic the size and design of the Room Z450s, which offers increased strength and durability, according to Suzuki. The frame's side beams have new wider-spaced ribbing that is also claimed to increase strength while shedding weight. The forward down tube and engine mount sections have been redesigned for additional strength as well. Lastly, the Room ZS subframe has been revised and features new mounting points that prevent it from being interchangeable with the 2015 model. The Room ZS redesigned chassis gives up none of that classic Suzuki flickability. It has a light and neutral feeling in the air or on the ground. The chassis is, to a certain degree, like the engine, in that the changes Suzuki made did little to alter how the RMZ handles. This time, though, it's a really good thing, as Room ZS have an excellent reputation for stability and turning prowess, and this one is no different. Abitoy noted that the 2016 Room Z250 delivers classic Suzuki handling. It corners well, and at 234 pounds, claimed, with its aluminum 17-gallon fuel tank filled to the brim, it is light and flickable on the ground or through the air. Suzukis are well known for cornering, Abitoy commented. This one is stable, but it turns easily, and it goes wherever you want it to, whether you are chasing the berm or hugging the inside line, the Suzuki steers with precision, and it doesn't matter whether the corners are rutted or smooth. It's also really stable in heavy braking bumps, too. The front end tends not to dive, which can cause a nervous feel at the bars when you are on the brakes. And when it comes to suspension, well, time will tell, but the Room Z250 certainly has to be considered a contender for best suspension in the 250 cubic centimeters motocross class and maybe any class. Suzuki has done away with the coil spring Showa SFF fork and brought the Room Z250 into the air age with its new 48mm KYB PSF2 pneumatic spring fork. As the name implies, the PSF2 has no coil springs, neither is it a separate function fork. The KYB features air chambers and damping cartridges in both fork legs, and it delivers 12.2 inches of front wheel travel. Out back, the RMZ gets a new KYB shock that boasts all three damping adjusters positioned just above its piggyback reservoir for easier tuning. The fork and shock up the fine-tuning ante even further by offering, for the first time, high and low-speed rebound as well as normal compression adjustment for the fork along with high and low-speed compression and high and low-speed rebound on the shock, which is naturally also preload adjustable via a threaded collar on the shock body. Brand new KYB suspension components front and rear deliver impressive capability when it comes to soaking up monster landings on the RMZ. With 12.2 inches of travel front and rear, it is also the most adjustable suspension currently on the market. Unlike some 2016 machines we've sampled lately, the Room ZS suspension required little time to adjust to the point where we were happy with its performance. Credit to Suzuki for delivering a suspension package that soaked up any hit we encountered, big or small. The KYB components are truly remarkable. All we did was slow the PSF2 fork's high-speed rebound down 2 clicks for a little better control of the suspension's return stroke. That was it. We found no need to mess with the stock shock settings, which give the rear end's 12.2 inches of wheel travel a plush yet controlled feel. The spring rates at both ends were well suited to the fast Pala track, and the Room Z250 tracked straight and true through rutted corners. The Room Z250's braking performance is satisfactory as well. Its 250mm front and 240mm rear wave rotors, and 2-piston front and single-piston rear calipers deliver smooth, powerful braking with a linear feel. They didn't wow us in any way, nor did they raise any issues. We also like that the Room Z250 comes standard with high-quality Excel rims and Dunlop's awesome Geomax MX52 tires, which have proven themselves to deliver excellent traction and long wear life. Despite the fact that it looks the same as it has for the past 3 years, the Room Z250 also delivers a comfortable ergonomic layout with a flat seat and excellent bar-to-pegs relationship completing the triangle. As Abitoy put it, the Suzuki is a bike you can get comfortable with instantly. How well the Suzuki will do on the racetrack or the sales floor is yet to be seen, but the 2016 is definitely a better 250 cubic centimeters motocrosser than it was 1 year ago. The 250 cubic centimeters motocross class is as tough and competitive as any in motorcycling. It demands that a machine be quick, fast, light handling and capable of tackling rough terrain, such as acceleration and braking bumps, without wearing the rider out over the course of a long moto. To that end, the 2016 Room Z250 is a winner on its own. Frankly, we expected more punch from its revised engine, but we can't deny that Suzuki more than covered all of the other bases to our liking. Whether that's enough to net the Room Z250 Alliance share of race wins in 2016 remains to be seen, but if the going gets rough and twisty, we wouldn't bet against it.